The Galactic Tribunal stood in stark contrast to anything humanity had ever built. Its circular architecture, floating in the void of space, was a monument to alien supremacy. Towering figures of various species filled the chamber, their expressions cold and detached as Earth's ambassador. Christopher Lang stood at the center. His voice carried a restrained fury as he addressed the council. "We demand accountability for the encroachments on Earth's sovereignty," he said, his fists clenched. "Our people have been patient. You cannot keep dismissing our existence as insignificant." At the far end of the room, Supreme Regent Azrith reclined in his ornate chair. His azure scales gleamed under the artificial lighting, and his voice was like ice. "Humanity's grievances are as primitive as your kind. You are tolerated, Ambassador Lang, not respected. Be grateful for our leniency." Before Lang could respond, a small noise broke the tension. A child's gasp. A human boy, no older than 8, had wandered too close to one of the alien guards stationed along the perimeter. The child's presence had been overlooked, a rare breach of protocol. "Return to your place," Lang said urgently, his voice cracking. The guard, a towering brute with crimson skin and sharp claws, glanced at the boy with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. "This is your future," the guard sneered, gripping the child by the arm. Lang stepped forward. "Release him. He's just a child." Azrith raised a clawed hand, signaling silence. The guard paused but didn't let go. "What is the value of one human life, Ambassador?" Azrith asked, his tone mocking. "It is worth more than your entire council," Lang spat back, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. The room grew colder, the weight of the moment suffocating. Then, without warning, the guard tightened his grip and, with a swift motion, snapped the child's neck. The sound echoed through the chamber. The boy's lifeless body crumpled to the floor. Lang froze, his breath caught, his body trembling as the weight of the act crashed over him. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the human delegation. One delegate screamed, another fell to his knees, but the alien council remained unmoved, their expressions as indifferent as stone. Azritha's voice cut through the silence. "Let this serve as a reminder, Ambassador. Humanity's place in the galaxy is beneath us. Challenge our authority again, and you will find yourselves extinct." Lang knelt beside the child's body, his shaking hands gently cradling the boy's head. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "We will never forget this." The broadcast of the tribunal reached Earth within moments, transmitted live through every corner of the planet. The image of the lifeless boy, held in Lang's arms, burned itself into the consciousness of every human watching. There were no words, only a collective, agonizing silence. In a small apartment in Tokyo, a mother clutched her own son tightly, tears streaming down her face. In Nairobi, a crowd gathered around a street-side screen, fists clenched in rage. In New York, workers abandoned their offices to flood the streets, their voices rising in anger and grief. Humanity mourned as one. And then, almost imperceptibly, that grief turned to fury. The President of the United Nations addressed the world that same evening. Her voice was resolute, her expression carved from stone. "Today we witnessed an atrocity," she began. "They thought they could break us by killing a child, but they have only united us. From this moment forward, humanity is at war, not just for the boy they took from us, but for every child who deserves to grow up without fear. For our survival, for our freedom, we will fight, and we will win." The declaration was met with an uproar of approval, a deafening wave of resolve sweeping across the planet. Factories shut down their regular operations and began churning out weapons. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, pooling knowledge and resources in an unprecedented display of cooperation. Humanity was mobilizing, driven by a singular purpose: vengeance. Lang returned to Earth days later. His arrival at the Geneva summit was met with silence as the delegates took in the haunted look in his eyes. "They see us as animals," he said, his voice hoarse. "They believe we are incapable of retaliation. Let us show them how wrong they are." The room erupted into debate, strategies, and resources being laid out. For the first time in history, the divisions that had long plagued humanity, national, political, ideological, were set aside. It wasn't about nations anymore. It was about survival. In a secret laboratory beneath the Arctic Circle, Dr. Elena Torres examined a shard of alien technology recovered decades ago. "Their arrogance will be their downfall," she muttered, her team nodding in agreement. The device's unique energy signature had baffled scientists for years, but now, desperation fueled breakthroughs. The first prototype of a human-engineered spacecraft equipped with advanced cloaking technology was launched within weeks. It was rudimentary but effective, a symbol of humanity's ingenuity and determination. As Earth prepared for war, the Galactic Empire remained oblivious. Azrith, seated in his opulent chambers, reviewed reports of minor skirmishes on the Empire's borders. "Insignificant," he muttered, waving a claw dismissively. His advisors nodded in agreement, their complacency blinding them to the storm brewing on Earth. In the darkness of space, a single human vessel, undetected by the Empire's sensors, hovered near an alien supply line. Inside, Captain Darius Cole and his crew prepared for their mission. "We're not soldiers," Cole said, addressing his team. "We're engineers, scientists, pilots. But today we fight, not for glory but for survival. For that boy, for all of us." The ship's stealth systems activated, rendering it invisible as it moved closer to the alien freighter. Moments later, the freighter's engines erupted in a brilliant explosion, the first of many strikes that would mark humanity's defiance. On Earth, news of the attack spread quickly. People cheered, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they were no longer helpless. The image of the boy's lifeless body still haunted them, but now it was a rallying cry. In every city, town, and village, humanity prepared for the battle to come. Factories worked day and night, producing weapons and ships. Training camps sprang up, turning civilians into fighters. Children, once sheltered from the harsh realities of war, learned to adapt, their innocence a casualty of necessity. And yet, amidst the preparations, there was hope. Hope that humanity's resolve, ingenuity, and unity would be enough to overcome the might of the Galactic Empire. Hope that the boy's death would not be in vain. As the first wave of human ships prepared to launch into the void, a single message was broadcast to the Empire. It was simple, unambiguous, and carried the weight of an entire species. "We are coming." The first wave of humanity's retaliation swept across the outer territories of the Galactic Empire like a phantom in the void. Striking with surgical precision, human forces targeted supply chains, communications relays, and isolated military outposts. These were not random acts of rebellion but calculated moves designed to exploit the Empire's overconfidence. In the silence of space, human ships, retrofitted with salvaged alien technology, moved unseen. Engineers and scientists had pushed themselves to the brink to create these vessels, blending Earth's rugged ingenuity with the advanced capabilities of their enemies' tools. Each ship bore the scars of rushed development, but they were effective, and that was all that mattered. Reports of the attacks began to trickle into the Empire's central command. Azrith was dismissive at first, calling them minor disturbances, but as the losses mounted and patterns emerged, it became clear this was no mere uprising. The humans were fighting back, and they were winning. For the first time, the Empire was forced to reconsider its underestimation of Earth. Azrith convened an emergency council, his tone colder than ever. "These humans dare to defy us. They will learn the price of such insolence." His advisors murmured in agreement, but behind their unified front was unease. The humans were not behaving like a species on the brink of extinction. They were organized, relentless, and, above all, unpredictable. On Earth, the resistance celebrated each victory, but there was no time for complacency. Every success came at a cost, and every loss of life reminded them of the stakes. In a makeshift command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Arya Kane reviewed the latest intelligence. "They're starting to take us seriously," she said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion evident in her eyes. "Good. Let them. But we can't stop now." Kane's team had grown into a global coalition of military leaders, scientists, and strategists. The level of cooperation was unprecedented, fueled by humanity's collective rage and desperation. Each decision was weighed carefully, balancing the need for swift action with the risk of overextending their fragile resources. Meanwhile, the Empire's retaliation grew more brutal. Civilian settlements in the outer colonies were razed as a warning to Earth. Azrith made it clear that no act of rebellion would go unpunished. But the human response was not fear, it was fury. The destruction of alien-controlled settlements became a priority, each strike a message that humanity would not be cowed. Among the human fleet was the Resolute, a warship commanded by Captain Darius Cole. The Resolute had become a symbol of resistance, its victories celebrated across Earth. But Cole knew the cost of his fame. Every mission carried the weight of expectations, and every crew member lost was a personal failure in his eyes. In one engagement, the Resolute intercepted an Empire convoy carrying weapons and supplies to the front lines. The battle was swift and decisive, with the human crew displaying a level of discipline and coordination that surprised even their own allies. Cole's voice rang out over the comms as the last enemy ship was disabled. Another blow to the Empire. Let this remind them, we are not prey. We are hunters. The victory was broadcast back to Earth, inspiring millions. But for every triumph, there was a moment of doubt. Could humanity sustain this level of resistance? Could they truly defeat an empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries? In a hidden research facility beneath the Sahara Desert, Dr. Elena Torres and her team worked tirelessly to answer that question. Their focus was a weapon unlike anything humanity had ever conceived, a device capable of disrupting the Empire's advanced energy shields. This is our equalizer, Torres said, her voice filled with determination. If we can crack their defenses, we can win. The project, codenamed Aegis, was a race against time. The team knew the Empire's forces would soon turn their full attention to Earth. Every breakthrough was met with cautious optimism, tempered by the knowledge that failure was not an option. As humanity's efforts intensified, so did the strain on its people. Soldiers fought battles in distant space, separated from their families by light years. Factory workers toiled endlessly, their hands calloused and their bodies weary. Even children contributed learning skills that would aid the resistance. But amidst the hardship, there was hope. The unity that had emerged from tragedy was unshakable. Humanity was no longer a collection of divided nations. It was a single force, driven by a shared purpose. Every act of defiance, every life lost, was a step closer to justice. Azrith, however, was not idle. The Supreme Regent ordered the construction of a fleet larger and more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. If the humans wish for war, he declared, then war they shall have. His advisors nodded, their expressions grim. The Empire's pride would not allow them to accept defeat, no matter the cost. As the fleet neared completion, the first signs of doubt began to creep into Azrith's mind. The humans had proven more resourceful than he had anticipated. Their resilience was unlike anything he had encountered in his centuries of rule. But Azrith dismissed these thoughts, focusing instead on the impending assault. On Earth, preparations for the final confrontation were underway. The Resistance knew the Empire's fleet would come, and they would be ready. In every corner of the planet, people braced themselves for the battle that would decide their fate. General Kane addressed her troops one last time before the inevitable clash. This is it, she said, her voice filled with conviction. Everything we've fought for comes down to this moment. Remember what they took from us. Remember why we fight. And remember that we are stronger together. The soldiers cheered, their resolve unshaken. They were ready to face the Empire no matter the odds. And as the first wave of alien ships entered Earth's orbit, humanity stood united, prepared to defend its home with every ounce of strength it had left. The Empire's fleet arrived in Earth's orbit like a storm, blotting out the stars with their sheer numbers. It was a sight designed to crush morale, a demonstration of the Empire's overwhelming superiority. But humanity did not falter. The Resistance had spent months preparing for this moment, every plan and contingency honed to perfection. The orbital battle began with a ferocity that shocked even the Empire's seasoned commanders. Human ships, though fewer in number, moved with precision, exploiting every weakness in the enemy's formation. Using advanced cloaking systems and hit-and-run tactics, they struck vital targets and disappeared before the Empire could respond. Inside the Resolute, Captain Cole issued rapid-fire commands, his calm demeanor masking the storm within. His crew worked in perfect sync, the result of countless hours of training and hard-won experience. Each victory was a testament to their resolve, but they knew the battle was far from over. On the surface, Earth's defenses roared to life. Massive ground-based cannons, built in secret and powered by experimental energy sources, unleashed devastating volleys at the invading fleet. Fighters launched from hidden bunkers, their pilots risking everything to protect their home. Every shot fired, every maneuver executed, was driven by the memory of what had been lost. The Empire's response was swift and brutal. They deployed advanced weaponry, targeting Earth's key infrastructure and defense systems. Cities burned as orbital bombardments rained down, but the resistance fought back with unmatched tenacity. For every structure destroyed, a dozen more sprang up in its place, hidden beneath the surface or in remote locations. In the chaos of battle, Dr. Torres' team made a breakthrough. The Aegis project was complete, and the weapon was ready for deployment. Torres transmitted the schematics to resistance leaders, who immediately began integrating the technology into their ships. The first test came moments later, as a human cruiser equipped with the device faced off against an Empire destroyer. The Aegis weapon fired, its energy beams slicing through the destroyer's shields as if they didn't exist. The resulting explosion lit up the sky, a beacon of hope for humanity. News of the weapon's success spread like wildfire, galvanizing the resistance. General Kane seized the opportunity to launch a counteroffensive. "They think they can break us," she said in a message broadcast to every corner of the planet. "Let's show them they're wrong." Her words ignited a fire in the hearts of soldiers and civilians alike, fueling their determination to push back the invaders. The tide began to turn. Human forces, armed with the Aegis technology and an unshakable will to survive, began to outmaneuver the Empire's fleet. One by one, the massive alien warships fell, their destruction punctuated by cheers from resistance fighters. Azrith watched the battle unfold from his flagship, his expression unreadable. He had underestimated these humans, their resilience and ingenuity. For the first time in centuries, he felt the sting of doubt. But he refused to retreat. The Supreme Regent would not allow his legacy to be tarnished by defeat. In a desperate bid to regain control, Azrith ordered the deployment of a weapon of last resort, a planet-cracker bomb capable of reducing Earth to rubble. The device was loaded onto a heavily fortified dreadnought, which began its approach toward the planet. The resistance intercepted the transmission detailing the bomb's activation. Panic spread through the ranks, but General Kane remained resolute. "We can't let that ship reach Earth," she said. "This is our last stand." Captain Cole and the crew of the Resolute volunteered for the mission, knowing it would likely be their last. With the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, they launched a daring assault on the dreadnought. The Resolute weaved through enemy fire, its Aegis weapon carving a path toward the target. As they closed in, the crew worked frantically to disable the bomb. Engineers hacked into the dreadnought systems, bypassing layers of security while under constant attack. Time was running out, and every second felt like an eternity. Finally, with moments to spare, they succeeded. The bomb was rendered inert, its destructive power neutralized. But the Resolute had taken heavy damage, its engines failing as it drifted toward the dreadnought's core. Cole made the call. "We've done our part," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Now it's up to the others." The crew evacuated, their escape pods launching into the void as the Resolute collided with the dreadnought. The resulting explosion tore through the Empire's flagship, a final act of defiance that would be remembered for generations. The loss of the dreadnought and its weapon was a turning point. The Empire's fleet began to retreat, their confidence shattered. Humanity had survived the unthinkable, defying an enemy that had once seemed unstoppable. On Earth, the people celebrated their hard-won victory, but the scars of battle remained. Cities lay in ruins, families mourned their losses, and the road to recovery seemed daunting. Yet amidst the devastation, there was hope, a belief that humanity could rebuild, stronger and more united than ever before. Azareth, defeated and humiliated, retreated to the core worlds of the Empire. His once unshakable grip on power was now questioned by his own advisors, who whispered of rebellion and reform. The Supreme Regent's legacy was one of failure, a cautionary tale of hubris and the underestimation of a determined foe. Humanity, though battered and bruised, stood victorious. The war had forged them into something new, something stronger. And as the first rays of dawn broke over the scarred landscape, they looked to the stars, knowing they had earned their place among them. The aftermath of the Empire's retreat brought a momentary silence, a fragile stillness as Earth's survivors tried to comprehend the magnitude of what had transpired. The war was over, but its echoes lingered in the ruins of cities and the haunted eyes of those who had fought. Earth's leaders convened, not in triumph, but in solemn reflection. The victory had come at an unimaginable cost, and the task of rebuilding seemed as daunting as the battle itself. General Kane stood before the gathered council, her uniform still bearing the marks of battle. She spoke with measured determination, her words cutting through the tension in the room. We didn't just fight for survival, we fought for a future where no one can threaten us again. We cannot waste what we've won. This is the moment to rise, to ensure the sacrifices made here were not in vain. The room nodded in unison, but the challenges ahead were daunting. Earth's infrastructure had been crippled, and millions were displaced. Engineers and scientists began coordinating the reconstruction effort, prioritizing critical resources while teams scoured the wreckage for survivors. Hospitals overflowed, and relief stations sprang up, manned by volunteers who worked tirelessly despite their exhaustion. Hope was fragile but present, kindled by the resilience of humanity. The war had also left humanity with something unexpected: the Aegis technology. Dr. Torres and her team had succeeded in adapting it further, crafting a defensive network that would shield Earth from future threats. The project was dubbed Eternal Vigilance, and it became a symbol of humanity's resolve to never again be caught unprepared. Orbital platforms equipped with Aegis systems began to form a protective ring around the planet, a testament to what could be achieved when humanity united under a common purpose. Amid the rebuilding, stories of heroism spread across the planet. Tales of soldiers holding the line against impossible odds, of civilians risking their lives to protect their neighbors, of the Resolute and its crew sacrificing themselves to stop the dreadnought. These stories became the foundation of a new global identity, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to stand together in the face of despair. But even as Earth rebuilt, the question of the Empire loomed large. Intelligence reports indicated that Azareth had returned to his seat of power, his reputation tarnished but his forces still vast. The Supreme Regent was not one to accept defeat, and the Council knew it was only a matter of time before the Empire sought to reassert its dominance. Humanity could not afford complacency. The decision was made to take the fight beyond Earth. Plans were drawn for the creation of a unified fleet, one capable of striking at the heart of the Empire if necessary. Recruitment centers filled with volunteers, many of whom had lost loved ones in the war. Training programs were accelerated, and new ships rolled out of orbital shipyards, each one a testament to humanity's ingenuity and determination. Among the volunteers was a young woman named Alara, whose brother had perished during the initial invasion. She had joined the resistance as a mechanic, but now she sought to pilot one of the new starships. Her story resonated with many, a reminder of the personal losses that fueled humanity's collective resolve. Alara became a symbol of the new generation, one that had grown up under the shadow of war but refused to let it define them. Meanwhile, emissaries were sent to other worlds that had suffered under the Empire's rule. Messages of solidarity and resistance were broadcast across the galaxy, urging others to rise against their oppressors. To humanity's surprise, responses began to trickle in. Small rebellions had already begun, inspired by Earth's defiance. The seeds of a larger movement were taking root, one that could shake the foundations of the empire itself. Azareth, though diminished, was not idle. Reports indicated that he was consolidating power, silencing dissent within his ranks and preparing for a counterstrike. But the Supreme Regent faced challenges he had never anticipated. The defeat at Earth had emboldened his enemies, and whispers of rebellion echoed through the corridors of his empire. For the first time in centuries, his dominion seemed vulnerable. Back on Earth, the final pieces of the defense network were completed. The first tests of the Eternal Vigilance System proved successful, intercepting simulated threats with unparalleled precision. The Council declared the system operational, and a global celebration was held to mark the occasion. For the first time since the war began, humanity allowed itself a moment to breathe, to celebrate not just survival, but the possibility of a brighter future. Alara stood among the crowd that day, gazing up at the sky where the orbital platforms glimmered like new stars. She felt a sense of pride, not just in what humanity had achieved, but in what it could become. The war had shown them their potential, their ability to rise above division and fear. It was a lesson she vowed to carry with her as she prepared for the challenges ahead. The rebuilding of Earth would take years, perhaps decades, but the foundation was strong. Humanity had emerged from the crucible of war tempered and unbroken, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The stars no longer seemed distant or unattainable. They were a new frontier, one that humanity would explore not as conquerors, but as stewards of a shared destiny. As the sun set on a battered but resilient Earth, a message was broadcast to the galaxy. We are here. We will not bow. And we are ready for whatever comes next. The message carried a promise not just to the Empire but to all who watched. Humanity had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. The future was theirs to shape, and they would do so with courage, unity, and hope.